The merchant ship Wandering Star moved slowly through deep space. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars pass by on the main screen. His crew of 8 people had been traveling for 2 weeks now. They were carrying medical supplies and farming equipment to a human colony called New Terra. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and tired eyes. He had been a ship captain for 5 years. His uniform was worn but clean. Next to him sat his first officer, Amy Chen. She was checking the navigation computers. Everything seemed normal until a loud beep filled the bridge. Amy looked up quickly. "Captain, we are getting a distress signal," she said. Jake leaned forward. "Where is it coming from?" Amy typed on her keyboard. "Unknown source. The signal is weak. It is coming from about 2 hours away if we change course." Jake thought about it. They had a schedule to keep. The colony was waiting for their supplies. "But someone needed help. We should ignore it," Amy said. "We do not know who sent it. It could be dangerous." Jake shook his head. "If someone is in trouble, we have to help." "Change course." Amy did not look happy, but she obeyed. The Wandering Star turned and headed toward the signal. 2 hours later, they found the source. It was a damaged alien ship floating in space. The ship was huge, much bigger than the Wandering Star. It had strange markings on the side. Parts of the hull were torn open and debris floated around it. "It looks like it was in a fight," said Danny Wright, the navigation officer. He was young, only 23 years old, with red hair and freckles. Jake opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Wandering Star. We received your distress call. Do you need assistance?" There was silence for a moment. Then a deep, rough voice answered. The words were in English, but the accent was strange and harsh. "This is War Master Zeltux of the Crithian Empire. We do not need help from weak creatures like you." Amy and Jake looked at each other. The Crithians were a warrior race. Humans had heard of them, but rarely met them. They controlled a large part of the galaxy and were known for being proud and aggressive. "Your ship is badly damaged," Jake said calmly. "We can offer repairs and medical help." "We do not accept help from inferiors," Zeltux replied. "Leave us." Jake was about to answer when Danny spoke up. "Captain, their engines are failing. If they try to move, the ship might explode." Jake made a decision. "War Master, your ship is not safe. Please let us help you. We do not want anyone to die out here." Another long silence. Then Zeltux spoke again. "You may dock. But do not think this means we are weak." The Wandering Star carefully docked with the Crithian ship. Jake, Amy, Danny, and the ship's doctor, Lisa Hamilton, put on their suits and crossed over to the damaged vessel. When they entered the Crithian ship, they saw the aliens for the first time. The Crithians were huge. They stood over 7 feet tall with bronze-colored scales covering their bodies. Their eyes were yellow and cold. They had sharp teeth and claws. There were about 15 of them on the ship. War Master Zeltux was the largest. He looked down at the humans with obvious disgust. To him, humans were tiny and weak. In Crithian culture, small size meant you were inferior. "You are even smaller than I thought," Zeltux said. "How did such pathetic creatures build spaceships?" Jake ignored the insult. "Where are you injured?" Zeltux pointed to a room. Lisa went there with her medical equipment. Jake and Danny began examining the ship's engines with 2 Crithian engineers. Everything was going well, until a young Crithian warrior named Vexer approached them. He was angry and aggressive. He said something in the Crithian language that sounded like an insult. Danny did not understand and turned to ask what Vexer wanted. That was when it happened. Vexer thought Danny was challenging him. In Crithian culture, turning away during a confrontation was a sign of disrespect. Vexer struck Danny hard across the chest. The blow was incredibly powerful. Danny flew backward and hit the wall. He fell to the floor, gasping for air. His arm was bent at a wrong angle. It was clearly broken. Jake ran to Danny's side. Amy pulled out her communicator to call for help. The Crithian stood frozen, watching. Then something strange happened. Every screen on both ships lit up with the same message. It appeared in thousands of different languages, including English and Crithian. Galactic protocol violation. Physical harm to human detected. Initiating response. Zeltux's yellow eyes went wide. For the first time, Jake saw fear in the alien's face. The War Master moved quickly. He struck Vexer across the face with his clawed hand. Blood ran down the young warrior's cheek. Zeltux grabbed Vexer and forced him to his knees on the floor. "You fool," Zeltux hissed. "You have killed us all." Jake was confused. "What are you talking about?" It is just a broken arm. Lisa can fix it. Zelthux turned to look at Jake. His expression was pure terror. You do not understand. There is one absolute law in this galaxy, one rule that can never be broken. You must never harm a human, never. Amy stepped forward. That is ridiculous. We are new to space. We have no powerful weapons. Why would there be a law protecting us? I do not know why, Zelthux said. His voice was shaking now. No one knows why. The architects made this law thousands of years before humans even had space travel. They left instructions that when humans finally reach the stars, they must be protected at all costs. Who are the architects? Jake asked. The beings who ruled the galaxy long ago. They disappeared, but their automated systems remain. They enforce this one law with absolute power. Anyone who harms a human is destroyed completely, no mercy. No second chances. Danny groaned in pain on the floor. Lisa was treating him, wrapping his broken arm. She gave him something for the pain. A countdown timer appeared on all the screens. It said, Enforcement arrival, 47 minutes. The Crithians began running around frantically. They tried to repair their engines. They wanted to flee before whatever was coming arrived, but the damage was too severe. We cannot fix it in time, one of the engineers said to Zelthux. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. Captain, we should leave now, get back to our ship and get out of here. But Jake looked at Danny lying on the floor. He looked at the terrified Crithians. He thought about what Zelthux had said. It was an accident. Vexer did not mean to hurt Danny so badly. He was just ignorant of human fragility. No, Jake said. We stay. Are you crazy? Amy said. You heard what he said. Something is coming that destroys anyone who hurts a human. It was an accident, Jake said firmly. I will not run and leave these people to die for a misunderstanding. Zelthux stared at Jake in disbelief. You would stay? You would risk your own life for us? For the ones who harmed your crew member? Danny is going to be fine, Jake said. He looked at Danny, who nodded despite his pain. Right, Danny? Just a broken arm, Danny said weakly. I will live. The timer counted down. 40 minutes. 30 minutes. 20 minutes. The Crithians stopped trying to repair their ship. There was no point. They waited for their doom. Jake stood on the bridge with his crew and the Crithians. They all watched the screens, waiting. When the timer reached 0, space itself seemed to tear open. Something came through. It was not a ship. It was not anything that should exist. Jake could not even describe what he was seeing. The computers could not measure it. The sensors screamed with error messages. The thing was like a rip in reality. It hurt to look at it directly. Its shape made no sense. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than Jake's eyes could process. Then a voice spoke. It did not come through the radio. It did not come through the air. It appeared directly inside Jake's mind. Inside everyone's mind, the voice had no emotion. It was neither male nor female. It just was. A human has been harmed. The perpetrator must be surrendered for judgment. Jake felt his heart pounding. His mouth was dry. But he stepped forward. He took a deep breath and spoke. No. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Zelthux and all the Crithians stared at Jake as if he had lost his mind. Even Amy looked shocked. You did not say no to the architects. You did not refuse them. No one in the galaxy had ever refused them. You simply obeyed and hoped to survive. But Jake Morrison, captain of a small human merchant ship, had just done the impossible. He had refused the most powerful force in the galaxy, and now they would all find out what happened next. The impossible entity floated in space outside the Crithian ship. Jake Morrison stood facing the view screen, his hands clenched into fists. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. Behind him, the Crithians were frozen in shock. Even War Master Zelthux looked like he could not believe what he had just heard. The voice came into their minds again. It still had no emotion, but there was something different now, something that might have been curiosity. You refuse our judgment. This is unprecedented, explain. Jake swallowed hard. His mouth was very dry, but he forced himself to speak clearly. It was an accident. Vexer did not know how fragile humans are compared to Crithians. He did not mean to hurt Danny so badly. Danny is being treated and will recover fully. I do not want Vexer to be punished for an accident. The law is absolute, the voice said. Physical harm to a human requires punishment. This has been our protocol for 7,000 cycles. Amy stepped up beside Jake. She was scared, he could tell, but she stood with him. Then your law is wrong. Justice should consider intent. Vexer made a mistake. He did not attack with malice. Why should he die for that? There was a pause. The entity outside seemed to pulse with strange light. Colors that had no names flickered across its surface. You speak for the injured human? The voice asked. I can speak for myself, Danny said. He stood up slowly, holding his bandaged arm. Lisa tried to make him sit back down, but he shook his head. I do not want anyone punished. Captain Morrison is right. It was an accident. We came here to help these people, not to cause their deaths. The silence that followed was even longer than before. Jake felt sweat running down his back. He wondered if he had just gotten everyone killed. Maybe the architects would destroy them all now for defying them. But the voice spoke again, and this time it sounded almost surprised. In 7,000 cycles, no human has ever refused our protection. No human has ever asked for mercy for those who harmed them. This changes the parameters of our response. We must evaluate the situation fully. All vessels will remain in position while we investigate. The entity did not disappear, but it seemed to become less intense. The pressure Jake felt in his mind eased slightly. He let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Zelthux approached Jake slowly. The huge Krithian warrior looked down at the human captain with an expression Jake could not read. Why did you do that? Zeltuk asked quietly. We hurt your crew member. By our own code, we deserve punishment. Yet you risk everything to save us. Why? Jake thought about his answer. Because revenge is not justice. Because Danny will heal. Because I think the galaxy has enough violence and death already. We do not need more. Zelthu was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something Jake did not expect. The War Master bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect in Krithian culture. I do not understand you, human, but I am grateful. Over the next several hours, the architect entity seemed to be scanning everything. It accessed the computer systems of both ships. It reviewed all the recordings of what happened. Jake felt strange tingles in his head and realized it was probably scanning his mind too. The feeling was not painful, just very odd. During this time, Zeltu told Jake more about the architects and the law that protected humans. The architects were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, Zeltu explained. They sat in the Krithian ship's common area. Lisa had brought Danny there to rest. The young navigator was lying down with his arm elevated listening. They could manipulate reality itself. They could destroy stars with a thought. They could create worlds. Nothing could stand against them. What happened to them? Amy asked. No one knows for certain, Zelthuk said. About 5,000 years ago, they simply vanished. They left behind only their automated enforcement systems and one command programmed into those systems. When humans reach the stars, protect them. Allow no one to harm them. But why? Jake asked. Why us? We are nothing special. We are late to space travel. We have no superweapons. We are not the strongest or the smartest species. Why would these powerful beings care about protecting us? Zeltu shook his head. That is the great mystery. The architects left genetic markers, descriptions of human DNA, even the coordinates of your planet Earth. But they left no explanation. Some civilizations have spent thousands of years trying to understand why. There are entire religions built around trying to answer that question. What do most people think? Danny asked. There are many theories, Zeltuk said. Some believe humans have a genetic trait the architects wanted to preserve. Some think Earth is special in some way. Some believe the architects saw the future and knew humans would be important. And some think the architects simply liked humans for some reason we cannot understand. When did you find out about us? Amy asked. 40 years ago, your first ships left your solar system and met the Viridians, Zeltuk said. Word spread quickly across the galaxy. The protected species had finally arrived. Some civilizations welcomed you. Others resented you. But all obeyed the law because the alternative was extinction. Has anyone tested the law before? Jake asked. Zelthuk's expression darkened. Yes. About 30 years ago, a species called the Xanthari attacked a human exploration ship. They were a hive mind species, very aggressive. They had a fleet of thousands of ships. The architects responded within minutes. The entire Xanthari species was erased, not just their ships. Their home worlds, their colonies, every single one of them. Gone like they never existed. Jake felt cold. The entire species? For attacking one ship? The law is absolute, Zeltu repeated. That is why what you did today is so shocking. You are the first human to ever refuse the architect's protection. You are the first to ask for mercy for those who harmed you. I do not think anyone in the galaxy knows what will happen now. As if responding to those words, the architect voice returned to their minds. Evaluation complete. We have analyzed the incident, reviewed all data, and assessed the intentions of all parties involved. Everyone in the room tensed. Jake stood up. He wanted to be on his feet for whatever came next. The injury to the human Danny Wright was accidental, caused by cultural ignorance and differences in physical strength. The human victim has recovered and advocates strongly for mercy. The human captain demonstrated wisdom and compassion in his response. These factors are significant. Jake held his breath. In 7,000 cycles of enforcement, this is the first time these circumstances have occurred. Previous protocols are insufficient. New parameters must be established. Zeltux made a sound that might have been a prayer in his language. Judgment is as follows, the architect voice continued. The Crithian warrior Vexer will not be terminated. Instead, he will serve a period of cultural education aboard human vessels, learning proper interaction protocols and human limitations. War Master Zeltux will establish a formal cultural exchange program between the Crithian Empire and human territories. This incident will be used as an educational example rather than a punitive one. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. The architects were showing mercy. They were adapting their absolute law. Furthermore, the voice said, the human captain Jake Morrison has demonstrated a quality we believed existed in humans, but had not yet observed. Compassion extended even to those who cause harm. This confirms certain projections. This is noted. This is important. The entity began to fade. The strange light dimmed. But before it disappeared completely, the voice spoke one more time. Humanity is protected because humanity protects others. This principle must be preserved. We will continue monitoring. The law remains in effect, but enforcement will now consider human wishes when humans are the victims. This is a significant development. We will be watching with great interest. Then it was gone. The space where it had been looked normal again. The sensors stopped screaming. The pressure in Jake's mind vanished. For a moment. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Vexer, the young Crithian who had struck Danny, slowly walked over to where Danny lay. The alien warrior knelt down, making himself lower than the injured human. I am sorry, Vexer said in broken English. I not know. I not understand. I learn now. I learn from you, Danny smiled weakly. It is okay. We all make mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. Zelthu stood and faced Jake. You have done something no one thought possible. You changed the architect's judgment. You showed mercy and received mercy in return. The galaxy will hear of this. Everything is about to change. Jake felt exhausted. He just wanted to sit down and process everything that had happened. But he managed to nod. We should probably get back to our ship. And you should start repairs. We will help if you want. We would be honored, Zelthu said. As the humans prepared to return to the wandering star, Amy walked beside Jake. Do you realize what you did? She asked quietly. I just did what felt right, Jake said. You changed galactic law, Amy said. You made the most powerful force in the universe reconsider its absolute rule. And you did it by being kind. Jake looked at her. Maybe that is why they protect us. Not because we are strong or special, but because sometimes when it matters most, we choose kindness over revenge. Amy smiled. Maybe you are right. They left the Crithian ship and returned home. But Jake knew Zeltux was right about one thing. The battle was over. The Korvaxi fleet was destroyed. Now came the next challenge. Commander Daniel Hayes stood in the operations center and looked at his team. They had won the battle perfectly. Not a single human casualty. Not one damaged defense platform. But winning a battle and winning a war were different things. Captain Lisa Morgan brought Hayes a datapad with the battle statistics. Complete victory, she said. Every Korvaxi ship destroyed. Our weapons performed better than expected. Hayes took the pad but did not look at it. He was thinking about what came next. The Korvaxi Empire controls 47 star systems. They have colonies on hundreds of planets. When they learn their invasion fleet disappeared, they will send another fleet, probably bigger. Morgan nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. We need to control the narrative. We need to tell our story before someone else tells it for us. That was the problem. Earth had just destroyed 3,000 warships in less than 5 minutes. The galaxy would hear about this. But what would they hear? Would they hear that Earth defended itself against invasion? Or would they hear that humans were dangerous killers who destroyed an entire fleet? Major Eric Stone was working with the communications team. They were preparing a message that would be broadcast to every inhabited star system within 50 light years. The message needed to be careful. It needed to be clear. It needed to show strength without looking threatening. We should include the full sensor recordings, Stone suggested. Show them exactly what happened. Let them see that the Korvaxi came to invade us. Let them see that we only defended ourselves, Hayes agreed. Add the tactical analysis too. Show them how we won. We want the galaxy to understand that Earth has power, real power, but we only use it when threatened. Lieutenant Jake Phillips was monitoring communications channels. Already Earth was receiving messages from other species. Some were asking questions. Some were offering congratulations. Some were making threats, and some were asking for help. Sir, we have received over 300 messages in the last hour, Phillips reported. Some species are afraid of us now. Others want to be our allies. And several species currently under Korvaxi control are asking if we can help them gain independence. This was the difficult part. Earth had proven it could fight. Now Earth needed to show it could think. The galaxy was complex. Every action would have consequences. Every choice would create ripples. Hayes called a strategy meeting with his senior officers. They needed to make decisions about Earth's future role in galactic affairs. The Korvaxi Empire is going to respond, Hayes said to the group. The question is how we want to shape that response. Do we wait for them to come to us again? Do we take the fight to them? Or do we try to negotiate? Colonel Ryan Bennett spoke up. If we do nothing, we look weak. The galaxy will think we got lucky once. But if we attack them first, we look like aggressors. We become the thing we just fought against. Captain Kevin Shaw joined the meeting by video link from the moon. We should use our victory to build alliances. Show other species that aligning with Earth means protection. Give them an alternative to either serving the Korvaxi or fighting alone. Morgan agreed with this approach. We offer a simple deal. Respect our sovereignty and we respect yours. Trade fairly with us and we trade fairly with you. But threaten us or our allies and you see what happens. It was a good strategy. Simple. Clear. Easy for other species to understand. Earth was not looking to conquer anyone. But Earth would not be conquered either. The message was finished 3 hours after the battle ended. It included full recordings of the Korvaxi attack. It showed the Korvaxi ultimatum demanding surrender. It showed the battle from multiple angles. The message made one thing very clear. Earth did not start this fight, but Earth finished it decisively. The second part of the message was an offer. Earth was willing to establish diplomatic relations with any species that approached peacefully. Earth was interested in trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements. Earth wanted friends, not subjects. The message was broadcast across dozens of star systems. Within hours, it was being discussed on thousands of worlds. Some species were impressed. Some were afraid. Some were hopeful. The message was exactly what Hayes wanted. It made Earth look strong but reasonable. Lieutenant Amy Carter compiled the initial responses from other civilizations. We are getting positive responses from species that have maintained independence from the major empires. The Viridian Collective wants to open formal communications. The Halcyon Federation is interested in trade talks. The Zephyr communes are asking about defensive technology sharing. This was good news. These were respected civilizations that had stayed neutral in galactic conflicts. If Earth could build relationships with them, it would legitimize humanity's position. But there was other news too. Less positive news. The Korvaxi homeworld has gone silent, Phillips reported. No official communications. But we are picking up increased military chatter. They are pulling ships from garrison duty across their empire. It looks like they are preparing a response. Hayes had expected this. No empire would accept the destruction of an entire invasion fleet without reacting. The Korvaxi would come again. The question was when and with how many ships. Start preparing for round 2, Hayes ordered. But this time we need to think about the aftermath. If we destroy another Korvaxi fleet, their empire might collapse completely. That could create a power vacuum. Pirates, warlords, and other empires might move in to grab Korvaxi territory. That could mean chaos for dozens of star systems. This was the problem with being powerful. Actions had consequences. Earth could destroy fleets easily. But destruction was simple compared to building something stable afterward. Morgan was thinking about the bigger picture. We should send diplomatic missions to key civilizations. Show them that humans are not just warriors. Show them we can talk as well as fight. Hayes agreed. Lisa, you will lead the first diplomatic mission. Take a small team to the Viridian Collective. They are the most influential neutral power. If we can establish good relations with them, other species will follow. Morgan accepted the assignment. She knew it would be challenging. She would be representing all of humanity to alien civilizations. She would be showing the galaxy what humans were really like. It was a huge responsibility. Over the next 3 weeks, the effects of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy. The Korvaxi Empire was in chaos. 5 of their subject species openly rebelled. They had seen what happened to the invasion fleet. They understood that the Korvaxi military was not invincible. If humans could defeat the Korvaxi, maybe they could too. Trade routes that had been controlled by Korvaxi warships for decades suddenly saw independent merchant ships operating freely. Pirates who had avoided Korvaxi space became bolder. The rigid order the Empire had imposed was breaking down. Stone monitored these developments carefully. The Korvaxi Empire is fracturing faster than we anticipated. Their subject species see weakness now. Some are asking us for military support against their Korvaxi occupiers. This was a trap Earth needed to avoid. If humans started liberating Korvaxi colonies, they would become the new occupiers. The liberated species would trade one master for another. Earth would become the thing it fought against. We offer moral support and diplomatic recognition, Hayes decided, but we do not send troops. These species need to free themselves. We can give them hope and inspiration, but not soldiers. If they win freedom because we gave it to them, they did not really win freedom. It was a hard decision. Earth had the power to free dozens of oppressed civilizations. But power had to be used wisely. Sometimes the best use of power was choosing not to use it. Captain Lisa Morgan prepared for her diplomatic mission. She studied Viridian culture. She learned their customs. She practiced their greetings. When she finally boarded the ship that would take her to the Viridian homeworld, she felt ready but nervous. She would be the first human most of these aliens had ever seen. She needed to make a good impression. Captain Lisa Morgan stood before the Viridian Council. The council chamber was enormous, designed for beings much larger than humans. The Viridians themselves were tall and covered in crystalline scales that reflected light in rainbow patterns. They were beautiful and intimidating at the same time. Morgan wore her dress uniform. She stood straight and calm even though she was nervous. She was the first human these beings had ever met in person. Everything she did and said would shape how they viewed all of humanity. The council speaker addressed her in translated speech. The translation device made the alien words sound smooth and formal. Captain Morgan of Earth, you come from a species that destroyed 3,000 warships in minutes. You claim to come in peace. Why should we believe you? Morgan had prepared for this question. Because we could have kept our power secret. We could have hidden what we did. Instead, we broadcast the recordings to everyone. We showed you our weapons. We showed you our capabilities. Why would we do that if we planned to conquer you? Conquerors rely on surprise. We chose transparency. The Viridians consulted among themselves in their own language. Morgan waited patiently. She knew this was a test. They wanted to see if she would get nervous or impatient. She remained calm. Finally, the speaker addressed her again. Your logic is sound, but power corrupts. Today you seek friendship. Tomorrow you might seek dominion. How can we trust that Earth will remain peaceful as it becomes more powerful? Morgan nodded. This was the real question. We cannot give you absolute certainty, but we can point to our history. Humans have fought each other for thousands of years. We learned hard lessons about war and peace. We learned that conquest creates resentment. We learned that the strongest empires eventually fall. We do not want to build an empire, we want to build partnerships. She continued, Earth offers a simple relationship. We respect your sovereignty completely. We do not tell you how to govern yourselves. We do not demand tribute or military service. What we offer is mutual defense. If someone attacks you, we consider it an attack on us. If someone attacks us, we hope you would stand with us. But the choice is always yours. Another council member spoke. This one had darker scales and a deeper voice. What do you want from us in return for this protection? Friendship, Morgan answered simply. Trade on fair terms, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation where our interests align. We want to learn from you and share what we know, but we will never force you to give us anything. The Viridians discussed this for several minutes. Morgan noticed that they seemed genuinely interested. They were not dismissing her out of hand. They were taking the offer seriously. Back on Earth, Commander Daniel Hayes was dealing with a different problem. Intelligence had confirmed that the Korvaxi were assembling another fleet. This one was much larger than the first. 7,000 warships. It was almost every military vessel the Korvaxi Empire had available. Major Eric Stone showed Hayes the tracking data. They are pulling ships from everywhere. Colony defense forces, border patrols, garrison units. They are committing everything to this attack. Hayes studied the fleet composition. They learned some lessons from the first battle. Look at their formation. They are much more spread out now. They modified their shield frequencies. They are taking us seriously. Lieutenant Jake Phillips added more information. Analysis suggests they think they have figured out our quantum disruptors. They believe the modified shields will protect them. Hayes smiled slightly. Let them believe that. Confidence makes people careless. What is their estimated arrival time? 6 weeks, Stone answered. They are moving slower than the first fleet, more cautious. 6 weeks gave Earth time to prepare. But it also gave Earth time to think about what came after the battle. Destroying 7,000 ships would effectively destroy the Korvaxi Empire as a military power. The power vacuum would be enormous. Colonel Ryan Bennett joined the strategy meeting. We need to think about the day after we win. If the Korvaxi Empire collapses completely, dozens of their subject species will declare independence. Some will fight each other over territory. Pirates and warlords will move in. It could be chaos for years. Hayes nodded. This was the problem with overwhelming power. Winning battles was easy. Building stable peace afterward was much harder. We need allies before the second battle happens, Hayes decided. We need other species that can help maintain order after the Korvaxi fall. Species with moral authority and diplomatic experience. That was why Morgan's mission to the Viridians was so important. The Viridian Collective was respected throughout the galaxy. They had stayed neutral in most conflicts. If they aligned with Earth, other neutral species might follow. Lieutenant Amy Carter brought news from the communications department. We have received formal diplomatic requests from 17 species. 8 of them are currently part of the Korvaxi Empire. They want to know if we will recognize their independence. This was a delicate situation. If Earth recognized their independence now before the second battle, it would be seen as an act of war against the Korvaxi. But if Earth waited, these species might think humans did not really care about freedom. Tell them we support their right to self-determination, Hayes said carefully. We recognize their inherent independence as sentient beings, but we cannot provide military support until they take concrete steps to free themselves. We will not fight their revolution for them. It was a diplomatic answer that said everything and nothing. It gave the rebelling species moral support without committing Earth to military action. On the Viridian homeworld, Morgan received an answer from the council. The speaker addressed her formally. We have decided to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. We will exchange ambassadors. We will explore trade opportunities. But we are not ready to commit to a mutual defense agreement. We need to see how Earth handles its conflict with the Korvaxi before we make such a commitment. Morgan accepted this. It was not everything Earth wanted, but it was a good start. We understand your caution. We hope that our actions will prove our good intentions over time. The speaker smiled, which looked strange on an alien face covered in crystalline scales. We hope so too, Captain Morgan. The galaxy needs a powerful species that uses power wisely. We have had too many bullies for too long. Morgan returned to Earth 3 weeks after leaving. She reported directly to Hayes about her mission. The Viridians are interested but cautious. They want to see how we handle the second Korvaxi attack. If we show restraint and wisdom, They will likely agree to a formal alliance. Hayes understood. So we need to win the next battle without looking like monsters. We need to show power and mercy at the same time. That will be difficult, Morgan agreed. We could destroy the second fleet as easily as we destroyed the first, but that would make us look like killers. We need a different approach. Stone had an idea. What if we disable their ships instead of destroying them? Show them we can win without slaughtering everyone? Force them to surrender rather than fight to the death? It was risky. Disabled ships could potentially repair themselves and fight again, but it would send a powerful message to the galaxy. Earth was strong enough to show mercy. Hayes thought about it carefully. We will disable their command ships and force the fleet to surrender. But if they refuse or continue fighting, we destroy them completely. We offer mercy once. Only once. The team agreed this was the best approach. Now they had to plan how to execute it. The second battle would be much more complex than the first. But if they succeeded, Earth would establish itself as a power that could be feared and respected. The second Corvaxi fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 7,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were spread out in a loose formation, learning from the mistakes of the first fleet. Their shields were modified. Their weapons were ready. They believed they understood what went wrong before and had adapted. Supreme Commander Thrax led this fleet. He was older than Grand Admiral Zethros had been, more experienced, more careful. He had studied the recordings of the first battle hundreds of times. He had analyzed every detail. He thought he knew what the humans would do. He was wrong, but not in the way he expected. Commander Daniel Hayes watched from the operations center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him, his team monitored the approaching fleet, but this time there were observers in the room. Diplomatic representatives from the Viridian Collective, the Halcyon Federation, and 10 other species. Earth had invited them to witness what humanity could do, and how humanity chose to use its power. They modified their shield frequencies, reported Lieutenant Jake Phillips. They think it will protect them from our quantum disruptors. Captain Lisa Morgan stood beside Hayes. She had returned from her diplomatic mission just 2 days ago. They scattered their formation too. They are taking us seriously now. Hayes nodded. This was good. An enemy that underestimated you was easy to defeat. But an enemy that respected you was an enemy you could negotiate with. Open a communication channel to their flagship, Hayes ordered. This was something Earth had not done during the first battle. No warning, no communication, just sudden overwhelming violence. But this time needed to be different. Supreme Commander Thrax appeared on the view screen. He was a large reptilian being with scarred scales and cold eyes. He looked like someone who had seen many battles and won most of them. Hayes spoke first. His words were transmitted not just to Thrax, but broadcast across the galaxy. Earth wanted everyone to hear this. Supreme Commander, you are approaching Earth's sovereign space with hostile intent. This is your single opportunity to withdraw peacefully. We destroyed your first fleet because they gave us no choice. We do not want to destroy you too. But we will defend ourselves and our allies without hesitation if you force us to. Thrax's expression showed contempt. His translator made his response clear. You ambushed one fleet with tricks and cowardice. Now you face the full military might of the Corvaxi Empire. Your primitive planet will burn. Your people will serve us as slaves. This is your last chance to surrender and accept merciful treatment. Hayes looked at Major Eric Stone and nodded. Everything was ready. I am sorry you feel that way, Commander. We will make this quick. The quantum disruption field activated, but differently than before. Instead of crushing every ship, it was precisely targeted. The field affected only the command vessels scattered throughout the Corvaxi formation. About 300 ships. The shields on those specific ships collapsed. Before Thrax could react, the gravity pulse weapons activated. But again, they were used precisely. The command ships were locked in place, unable to move, but not crushed or destroyed. They were held in invisible cages of twisted spacetime. You have 300 of your command ships held in stasis, Hayes announced calmly. They are undamaged but completely immobilized. Your fleet is now without coordination or leadership. Your remaining ships can try to fight if they choose, but without proper command structure, they will be destroyed individually. Or you can order them to stand down and we can discuss terms. The choice is yours. It was brilliant psychological warfare. Earth had proven it could have destroyed the entire fleet instantly. The fact that the command ships were merely held rather than obliterated showed both power and restraint. The Korvaxi forces found themselves in an impossible position. The alien observers in the operations center watched with fascination. The Viridian representative whispered to Morgan, "Your species understands warfare at a sophisticated level. You fight not just with weapons but with psychology." Supreme Commander Thrax was no fool. He understood the situation immediately. His fleet was paralyzed. Earth had demonstrated it could destroy them but chose not to. Fighting now would only result in pointless death. Retreating was impossible with his command ship locked in place. He had one option left. "I order all Korvaxi forces to stand down," Thrax said slowly. The words clearly pained him. "We agree to negotiate." Hayes allowed himself a small smile. "Wise decision, Commander. Lower your weapons and prepare to be escorted to neutral territory for talks." Colonel Ryan Bennett coordinated the next phase. Earth's defense forces carefully surrounded the Korvaxi fleet. They maintained targeting solutions on every ship but did not fire. The message was clear. Earth could destroy them at any moment but was choosing peace instead. The journey to the neutral zone took 12 hours. During that time, diplomatic channels were working frantically. Species throughout the galaxy were discussing what they had witnessed. Earth had defeated a second Korvaxi fleet, but this time without massive slaughter. This time with precision and control. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Earth's terms were straightforward. The Korvaxi Empire would recognize humanity's sovereignty. They would recognize the sovereignty of any species that chose to align with Earth. They would stop their aggressive expansion and exploitation of subject species. In return, Earth would not attack Korvaxi territory. The captured command ships would be released unharmed. Earth would not interfere with Korvaxi internal affairs as long as the Empire stopped trying to conquer others. It was a fair deal. It allowed the Korvaxi to save face while fundamentally changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Captain Kevin Shaw watched the treaty signing from Tranquility Base on the moon. He had been ready to unleash devastating weapons. Instead, he watched diplomacy triumph. It felt strange but good. Lieutenant Amy Carter compiled reports from across the galaxy. 17 species have formally requested diplomatic relations with Earth. 8 of them were Korvaxi subjects who are now declaring independence. The Viridian Collective has agreed to a mutual defense treaty. So have the Halcyon Federation and the Zephyr Communes. Commander Hayes reviewed the data carefully. Earth had positioned itself perfectly. Not as conquerors, but as a powerful defender that others could align with voluntarily. Species could choose to work with Earth or stay neutral, but they could not threaten Earth without facing consequences. The treaty ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Supreme Commander Thrax signed the documents with obvious reluctance. His expression showed bitter acceptance. He had met his match and knew it. But there was something else in his expression too. A grudging respect. Earth could have humiliated him completely. They could have destroyed his fleet and paraded him as a defeated enemy. Instead, they offered him an honorable peace. As the Korvaxi fleet departed under escort, heading back to their territory under the new treaty terms, Morgan stood with Hayes watching the view screen. "We changed everything," she said quietly. Hayes nodded. "We proved that strength does not require cruelty. That power can be used responsibly. Now we just have to maintain that standard. The galaxy will be watching everything we do from now on." Earth's defense platforms remained active. The weapons that had proven so devastating remained ready. But humanity had learned to balance force with wisdom. They had shown the galaxy that they could destroy enemies easily, but preferred to make friends instead. The Korvaxi Empire still existed, but was greatly reduced. Their subject species were gaining independence. Trade routes that had been controlled by force were opening to free commerce. The galaxy was changing, and Earth stood at the center of that change. The defense platforms that had laid in wait had done their job perfectly. The Imperial fleet had fallen in minutes during the first battle. But the second battle, the battle where Earth chose mercy over massacre, was the one that truly mattered. The age of empires built on conquest was ending. The age of coalitions built on mutual respect was beginning. Earth, the planet dismissed as primitive just months ago, now stood as the example others would follow. The weapons remained ready. The defenses remained strong, but Earth had proven something more important than military might. They had proven they deserved the power they possessed. They had shown wisdom alongside strength, and the galaxy, tired of bullies and tyrants, was ready for something different. Ready for a future where power protected rather than oppressed. Ready for the new order that humanity was helping to build.